Hi, this is Lady Lex UK, and this is part 2 of my level linking tutorial for Dreams. In part 1, we had a look at putting in a one-way door where you could either exit your level or you could level link to a new game level. So we created our whole dream and put our levels in and linked them all up, and we had a game where you could go through a door and go into somewhere else. But what if you wanted that doorway to be two-way? Let's imagine then, instead of it just going through a door and going to a new level, this is a village and these are doorways into houses, and on each level that I'm going to is going to be the interior of that house. So I'd want that doorway to be two-way so that I can go into the house, explore, and then come back out of the door and end up back here. Right, the gadget itself has options for exit, entrance, and two-way door. So you'd think, I'll just click on two-way door and that problem solved, it's sorted. Let me show you why that's not going to work on its own. So here is my level. I've just spawned, and I've spawned here at the start of my game. Now let's imagine there's a lot between me and those doors. There's a whole village, there's enemies I've fought, platforming levels I've climbed, and what have you before I get to these doors. So there's a good 10 minutes of gameplay before I even get to this area. So I've wandered through the village, I've killed people, I've talked to people, I've done things right, and I've come here. And I'm going to walk through this archway. Here we go. And I've got to the interior of this house, which is very boring and I don't want to spend any time here. So I'm going to go back through my archway and end up back in my hub world. Except I'm not. I'm right back at the start. So that's no good. That's not going to work for us because we're right back at the start again. We're not outside the door that we've just exited. So somehow we're going to need to be able to move the position of our player when they respawn in this world. Now normally it's just going to prop us exactly where you place your mannequin in your level when you built it. So we need somehow to be able to place our mannequin here facing that way, so that we've come back through the door. Or if they go through this door, we want them to face that way, exactly in front of this door, and things like that. Okay, so what have I done? Okay, let's exit this. Right, let's go into our hub world. Okay, so you'll recognise this scenario from previously, but I've altered it slightly. Okay, here is our doorway. And here is our microchip. So we've seen this before. If you haven't seen part 1, go see it now and come back, because I explained how all of this worked in that tutorial. Right, so we've got our trigger zone for opening the door, and we've got our frame to open the door. And all I've done to change this is I have made the trigger zone for opening the door to be both sides of the door, because we need to be able to come in and out. And I've changed the keyframe so now it doesn't keep the changes. The door will shut when you walk out of the trigger zone. And I've changed the door to a two-way door, like so. So that's our doorway. Now in this doorway I've put all the new information, all the new stuff. Now you could put this all in a different microchip if you want. You don't have to put it in a door brain. This can all go in somewhere separate. I just, for ease, I just popped it in here. And there isn't an issue whether it's a separate microchip or into this door. It doesn't really matter where it sits, really. Right then. We need a way of identifying where we've come from. And the way we do that is by using a variable. So if we go into our gadgets and we go to logic and processing, the variables variable looks like this. It's a box with an X on it. And this, next to it, is a variable modifier. This is what you use to change that number that is in here. So we're going to need both of those. So I've stamped in a variable and I've called it exits. Now this is important. This isn't just to be tidy. This is an important part of the gadget, is the name of it. You need to make sure that you've got the spelling of this correct with capitalization and everything. It's got to be the same every time you use it. Keep it pithy. Don't have a great big long name that you can possibly misspell or stop putting spaces in or something. Something nice and quick and easy like exits is ideal. Okay, so here is our variable called exits. I haven't altered the minimum and maximum values. You could change this if you want to, but it's not really going to make much difference in this particular scenario. So I've just left them at the minimum and maximum that are the default, and it will work just as well. The initial value you want to make sure is set at 0 because we haven't gone through any doors yet. So 0 is the default. Then we click on persist in dream. Now this is very important. This is what we're going to use to pass this variable number between levels. If this is not clicked on, it will not work. This persist in dream will take the whatever number this variable has, whatever it contains, whatever number it's got to, and it will pass it into the next level. And if it can find another variable with the same name, it will transfer that number into that variable. And backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards, however many levels that you've got linked. As long as there is a variable with that name on it, it's going to pass that value backwards and forwards. So you can maintain a number. This is only going to deal with numbers. So like I say, its defaults at 0. And this number, the current value of the a variable, is going to be passed into a selector. And this is the active port. We've wired it into the active port. So it's going to choose one of these 3, because I haven't done the archway yet. So it's just one of either no door, which is the 0, which is what it is at the moment. You can see it's white to say that this is what it is. And then 1, and then 2. So if the variable was a 1, it's going to activate this port. If the variable was a 2, it's going to activate this port. Now these ports are then wired up to 2 things. First of all, they are wired up to these tags. Now I've put one in front of each door. And the position of these tags are going to be where your player is going to respawn when they come back through after going through one of these doors. Now I did the red door first, so this is teleport number 1 and this is teleport number 2, but you call them both teleport, exactly the same name. That's very important. Again, it's important the spelling and everything else. Go into the tag, you see it's called teleport, and I've got this gizmo. You click on it, above it there's a little connector, and as you can see I've moved the Z to be in the angle that I want the player to be looking facing when he comes through. And I haven't done it with this one, so let's, there we go. You can see there's this here. You click it with the right trigger. Now we're going to move this around like that. Right, let me just, actually let's not do it that way. I've picked it up, pick up the Z and just move it around. Woo! So it's facing the way you want. There we go. I think I've accidentally tipped it. I don't want to tip it. There we go. That looks about right. So it's going to be facing that way. Right. Each of these active ports are going to turn on with the power one of these teleports. So if it's activated port 1, it's going to turn this on. So, and it's also got another wire that's linking to my player. Here's my player's brain, which is upside down. Oh, I've turned that upside down. And never mind. Okay, here's my puppet logic. And I have put in there a teleporting gadget. Teleporting gadgets can be found in movers and output. And it looks like 2 people. A white one and a black one standing there. That's the teleporter gadget. So I've stamped that in. And it's looking for a tag called teleport, which is either one of those 2. And only one is going to be active at any one time, so it will teleport to whichever one is active. And I've clicked on match target position and match target orientation. That way we get it to face the correct way. And it's going to end up on the tag. And it's going to match that Z coordinate. You'll want to put your teleporting tag at pelvis height. If you put it down low, then he's going to be squatting, which is probably not what you want. So keep it at that sort of point. You can experiment with it in test mode just to see where he's going to teleport to, just to make sure you're going in the right place. But put it roughly at the pelvis area, which is this area here. And that should be the right position for it. Right, so that's the code that we're going to use. Now, also in this brain is this timer and variable modifier. And what this is going to do is going to reset it back to 0 after we've teleported. Because if we don't do that, he'll be stuck in the position. He won't be able to move because we've told it he's come through door 1, move him there, and we haven't told him to move him away. So we need to reset it back to 0. So we've got a timer here. I've got it on 0.2 seconds, so the player won't even notice that anything really has happened. And then I've got a variable modifier, and this is looking for the exits variable, and it's going to set it as 0. So that's going to reset it back to 0. As soon as we get him into the hub world, so that it's got time to teleport our player, and then he can move about without any problems. So where is the variable going to be set? Well, the variable is going to be set in our room interiors, in our other levels. So let's go into one of them. So we'll just quick save that. And exit. Okay, so let's go into door 3 and have a look at that. Right then, so here is our player, and I've stuck him so he starts the level in front of the door, but I have got our microchip here, and I've got our trigger zone here, so he's not in the trigger zone to start off with. He's just outside, because you don't want you want this message to come up as soon as he comes through the door, because that would be annoying. So make sure he's not standing inside your trigger zone. Right, now you could, like you saw with the archway, you could just have a doorway that goes backwards and forwards with a trigger zone and no option to press a button or anything like that. I think if you're going to do an interior, you want the player to be able to freely move around. You don't want them accidentally setting off your trigger zone and ending up outside the room. So I think it's a good idea to have an option to leave when you've got a room interior. So that's what I've done for this. So we've got a trigger zone, like I say, in front of the door. And I've got 3 wires coming out of that. This wire here goes into this text, so it displays, do you want to exit? Press cross. And we've got an AND gate, and this is going to detect whether you're in the trigger zone and you've pressed cross. And if you've done that, then it's going to activate our doorway, and it's going to auto activate our variable modifier. And as you remember, right, it's going to change exits. It's going to set it to be 1. We change this number here to a 1. So this is now going to tell the hub world I've come through door that needs that on that selector is going to be number 1. So whatever we've got activated on that first, on that B, on that selector, on number 1, that's what's going to happen. And here is our variable. Like I said, you have to place the variable in every level so that it will pass the information backwards and forwards. So we've got the variable stamped in there, and again, make sure persisting dream is on. Right, this wire is connected to a NOT gate. The reason I've got this is because I've chosen the cross for my player to exit or not. And obviously in the normal brain of our puppet, if you press cross, he's going to jump. I don't want him to jump. I want him to exit. It's a bit of a pain to jump and exit at the same time. Looks a bit naff. So we're going to have this NOT gate that says not detected. And in the player brain, we've just wired that in with an AND gate. I've detached the cross button from the jump. Instead, we're going through this AND gate. It says if you press cross and you're not detected by the door, then jump. Otherwise, if you're detected by the door, you won't jump when you press X. That might be handy for you for a game. If you wanted a different button press, different things to happen. Let's say you've got X for pretty much everything, jump or interact or whatever. That's how you would deactivate the jump option in the puppet brain. So there you go. So this is now this variable modifier. It's going to pass the number 1. There we go. It's going to pass that number 1 through the doorway. And you notice I haven't named this doorway. I could name it. I could say back to the hub or whatever. But because we're using a two-way door, we know where it's going to go. It's going to go back to our hub world. So we'll quick save that. And we'll exit. There we go. Now we're going to go into our dream. And there we go. It's updated both door 1 and door 3 because I saved them and changed it. Now, where it says update, it's a good idea to do auto update, which is what you just saw. Just click on this little tree, and that will now auto update anything that is changed in your level, because you might not remember, or it will tell you up here if you don't, and then you have to click on this and then you have to update them manually. It's much better to just turn auto update on, so that you go so it's just come out, so then you just go let's not save that, right? So then you go edit, it will update, you exit, and then you save. Okay, now I'll just show you this because we've added an extra door since the last time you saw this, and also we've got two-way doors now. You can notice the two-way doors that have got the different symbol than the one-way door. So these are two-way doors. You can see they're going backwards and forwards between these two worlds, like so. And now when I first turned these into two-way doors, I lost the connection to this in my hub world. I think that's a slight bug in the game. I don't think it's supposed to do that. It seemed a bit weird, but I did lose the connection to the entrance, which is quite an important thing. If you don't have a link here to one of these worlds, it's just going to randomly pick one, which is no good at all. You must have this connected to your hub world. So if that happens to you, you just find that you're unconnected, just stamp a doorway. It doesn't need a name. I named mine door 1, but it doesn't necessarily need a name. Just stamp one in your hub world. It doesn't matter where it goes either. It's not going to be connected to anything. But then you can come in here and relink up your hub world. Just drag a wire across to your new doorway that you put in. So there we go. So there is our hub world. Always save before you test or play. And always reset progress. If you don't do all of these steps, save, update, save, reset progress, you're going to get some strange results and you might find it actually not working. It's not working. You've got to make sure everything is updated and everything is saved so that you get exactly what you expect. So there we go. So we can go through our doorway. I can wander around in my pub. I can exit. And there we are. I am now through the doorway. And I can go through this one. And I'm through the doorway. There we go. Hope that was useful to you. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in your dreams.